The wind whispered through the tall trees, carrying secrets that only the forest seemed to understand. The branches bent gently, as though bowing to something, or someone, approaching. In the distance, the faint clink of armor echoed softly, steady as a heartbeat. It was Maria. Maria was not just any knight. She was a brave, compassionate warrior who had sworn to protect not only the kingdom but also the forgotten, voiceless corners of the land, the rivers, the animals, and even the whispers of the wind. Her armor shone like sunlight breaking through a storm, and her sword, though sharp, was rarely drawn. For Maria believed courage was not measured by battles fought, but by kindness shown when no one was watching. That day, she rode her horse deep into the forest known as Elderwood. Many said Elderwood was alive. Not alive like trees and birds are, but alive with something ancient, something mysterious. Some knights avoided it altogether, calling it cursed. But Maria had always felt a pull toward it, as though the forest had something to say. She dismounted, letting her horse rest near a brook. "Stay here, Luna," she whispered, stroking its mane. Then she stepped into the thicket, her eyes scanning the emerald glow of moss-covered trunks. And that's when she heard it. A voice. Not human, not animal, something in between. It came from deeper inside, soft yet urgent, like a song sung in a language Maria couldn't understand. She followed the sound until she found its source, a small creature, no taller than her knee, with fur the color of dusk and eyes that shimmered like moonlight. The creature tilted its head and spoke again, a string of lilting sounds. Koko na li, ra ven tu ra. Maria froze. She had never heard such a language. The creature stepped closer, placing a tiny paw over its heart. "Koko," it said firmly, as if introducing itself. Maria smiled gently. "Koko," she repeated. The creature's eyes brightened, and it clapped its paws together. Though they couldn't share words, something passed between them in that moment, an understanding deeper than language. But before Maria could speak again, the forest groaned. A rumble shook the ground, leaves trembling as if in fear. Maria's hand instinctively gripped her sword hilt. The sound grew louder, until from the shadows emerged something terrifying, a massive creature, like a wolf, but twisted, its eyes burning red and its body cloaked in thorny vines. Koko yelped, rushing behind Maria. The beast snarled. Maria raised her shield. She had fought dangerous creatures before, but this one felt wrong. Its growl carried sorrow, as though it wasn't born evil but trapped in it. The beast lunged. Maria dodged, her armor scraping bark as she rolled. Her sword flashed, but she hesitated. Something inside her told her not to strike. She glanced at Koko, who shouted desperately in its strange tongue. "Ar no tall, ar no tall." The forest seemed to echo the words. Maria realized then, this wasn't a fight to win with steel. The beast wasn't an enemy. It was a message. "Koko," Maria whispered, "help me understand." The little creature's eyes widened. It tugged at Maria's gauntlet, leading her closer to the beast, who was thrashing against unseen chains of thorny vines. And then Maria saw it. The vines weren't just around its body, they were growing from the earth itself, pulsing with a dark energy. Koko pressed its paw to the ground and began chanting. The vines writhed. Maria knelt, lowering her sword, and placed her hand gently on the beast's snout. "It's okay," she whispered, though she wasn't sure if the creature understood. "You're not alone." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the beast's growl softened. Its eyes dimmed from red to amber, and the vines began to crack, snapping away as if Koko's chant and Maria's touch together had broken the spell. The beast collapsed with a sigh, shrinking into something smaller, a stag, trembling but free. Maria's heart raced. She had never experienced anything like this. The stag lifted its head, eyes glowing with gratitude, then bounded into the forest. The vines shriveled into ash. Koko collapsed, exhausted. Maria scooped the little creature into her arms. "You saved it," Maria murmured. Koko shook its head weakly and pointed at her. "Maria," it said slowly, the syllables strange in its mouth. Maria blinked in surprise. You know my name." Koko nodded. She held her breath. The forest had always felt alive, but this was different. Somehow, it had given her a companion who could bridge the language of the heart. That night, Maria and Koko rested by the brook. The stars stretched white above them, and the fire crackled warmly. Maria offered Koko some bread, but the little creature instead gathered berries and roots, arranging them carefully. "You have your ways," Maria said softly, smiling. Koko nodded, then placed a berry into Maria's hand. "Share," it said simply. Maria felt something stir inside her. The kingdom often praised strength, honor, and conquest, but here, in this quiet forest, she had found something far greater: connection. Days turned into weeks. Maria and Koko traveled together, unraveling mysteries hidden in Elderwood. They discovered that the forest was speaking, through the vines, through the animals, through Koko. There was a language beneath the language, a song that bound every living thing. One morning, they came across a village at the forest's edge. The villagers were frightened, claiming the forest had cursed them, crops withering, wells drying. They begged Maria to slay whatever monster lurked within. But Maria didn't unsheath her sword. Instead, she listened. She listened to the whispers in the trees, the murmur in the soil, the sadness in the villagers' eyes. And she realized the truth: the land wasn't cursed. It was calling for help. Guided by Koko, Maria led the villagers into the forest. She showed them the roots poisoned by careless fires, the rivers clogged by forgotten waste. The forest isn't our enemy, she told them. It's our home. At first, the villagers resisted. But then Koko stepped forward, chanting softly, and the earth itself seemed to respond. Flowers bloomed where there had been ash. The river stirred, trickling clearer. The villagers gasped. In that moment, they understood. Together, they began to heal the forest, cleaning rivers, planting trees, tending to the soil with respect rather than fear. And with every act of care, the forest grew brighter, as though singing in gratitude. But their journey wasn't without danger. Dark forces, the same that had bound the beast in vines, still lingered. One evening, shadows gathered, forming a figure cloaked in black mist. Its voice was cold, like wind through hollow bones. "You meddle, night," it hissed. "The forest was mine to consume. Now you will suffer." Maria stood tall, shield raised. But before she could answer, Koko stepped forward, trembling but firm. It spoke in the forest language, words Maria didn't know, yet somehow felt in her chest. "We belong to each other. You cannot break what is whole." The figure snarled, lunging at them. Maria swung her sword, not to kill, but to scatter the mist. The shadows recoiled, hissing, until they dissolved into the air. The silence that followed was heavy, then peaceful. Koko fell into Maria's arms, exhausted again. "Safe," it whispered. Maria held it close, her armor pressing against its soft fur. "Yes," she whispered back. "Safe." Seasons passed. Maria became known not just as a knight of the kingdom, but as a guardian of Elderwood. Songs were sung of the brave knight Maria, who with her small companion Koko, learned the forest language, the language of kindness, respect, and unity. But Maria never saw herself as a hero. She saw herself as a student, always learning. For every whisper of wind, every glance of a deer, every word from Koko reminded her, true bravery was not conquering but listening. And so, every evening, as the stars rose above Elderwood, Maria and Koko sat by the brook. Sometimes they spoke, sometimes they didn't. For in their silence, the forest spoke enough.